My name's Georgia Harper. I'm the Financial Director at JPX Construction, which I guess you could say is your mid-size, run-of-the-mill construction company. Each morning would start the same. I'd get to the office around 7:30. I'd make myself a coffee and then I would get to work. I mean, it was nothing exciting really. I remember thinking that this week was going to be a really good week. Obviously, I was wrong. I sat down at my computer, this big old computer at the time, turned it on. It was blank. Sorry, can I have some water, please? Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, my throat was really dry. Sorry, right, I'm ready. Ready.
Okay, so you've come into the office and you've seen the black screen with the message. What were your first thoughts?
I think, I was confused. I don't really understand what I was looking at. It wasn't till another colleague came bounding over and said, "I've got this message on my computer." I think the realisation sunk in is, I'm sorry, I'm going to swear now. Shit. What does it mean? I mean, what does it mean? I think my next thought was to call Noah.
So I'm Noah Preston. I guess you could say I was the external IT consultant for JPX. It's not really my game, and even then it wasn't particularly my game because they had a properly managed service provider. But I've known Georgia for a long time. She sent me a message on the Monday, I think around 8 a.m. Sent me a message to say that she had this message on her screen and that it was asking her to contact these people. She was clearly panicked, so I went in to check it out. I sat down at the desk and had a look at the computer, and yeah, it had this message. And I tried to see if there's a way to, kind of bypass it, which of course there wasn't. What they'd done was they'd encrypted the boot drive, which now required an encryption key to get past. They'd also encrypted all the servers, which I guess in simple terms is like someone putting a lock on all your doors and windows without a key to get past. Stephen, the MD, said that the IT guys were trying to restore the main server through a backup. At this stage, I guess it was clear to see that these guys, whoever they were serious. At this stage, Georgia started contacting the police, and I then went about to contact the hackers through a fake persona, Will Bailey, for any of you West Wing fans out there. We'd sent the message and they responded immediately, and they were surprisingly polite, which was strange. You don't often think of the bad guys as wondering about their tone, and they'd always finish each email with regards, which is strange. But anyway, you're right, they asked for 5 Bitcoin, which at the time I think was roughly I want to say 25, maybe £30,000. I let Stephen know, and as always, he was surprisingly calm.
I had never been so furious in my life. How had this happened to us? And why us? A million things were going round in my head. And when I heard the 5 Bitcoin, I had no idea what that was worth in real money. Noah gave me the approximate amount, and whilst that was painful to hear, I had imagined things like you hear in the news, millions, which obviously we didn't have.
Honestly, at this point, I was fearing the worst. I mean, you hear about this thing happening to the bigger businesses and it's curtains, you know? Especially if they get hold of the accounts package, which by either chance or design was left completely untouched. I mean, it didn't stop the rest of the business coming to a complete halt, mind. The phones were going mad. I mean, people were panicking and looking for answers. We had site managers trying to access their drawings and designs. I mean, my team couldn't access the management software, although Noah managed to find a way around. You know, as senior staff, you have to be seen to have a brave face. But in reality, deep down, I think to some extent we are just as nervous as everybody else, you know? And then the police turned up. There was that real sense of relief, and they were a great help in calming everybody's nerves. I mean, I personally found their presence strangely reassuring. I mean, they set up in one of our offices. They even went as far as booking local hotels. It was just what we needed.
The police were great. They really knew their stuff, and they were clearly no sort of strangers to this type of event. In reality, there was nothing they could do for us in regards to unlocking the data, but they did guide us through, and they gave us a really good understanding of the type of people that we were dealing with. Ultimately, it was down to us. We had a decision to make: either pay up or lose the data.
The insurance company called me back. So I'd phoned them earlier, and they told me to wait while they, figured out what their stance would be, I guess. Effectively, they told us not to pay, because if we did, then we wouldn't be covered. And there was also a chance of being added to some dark web blacklist of people who pay, which in the future could basically put a target on our backs. That shook me a lot. I remember telling the guys and the police, of course, and everybody had a different stance. The police couldn't really give us advice, but they did say, however, that 9 times out of 10, if you give them the full amount, then you'd get your data back. I didn't know what to do.
For me, it seemed clear what we had to do. We had no choice but to pay. But I guess that's easy for me to say. It wasn't my money.
Ultimately, the decision was mine. The problem, obviously, is that I could trust these people just about as far as I could throw them. Now, back in the day, that would have been quite some distance, but when I was out on site, unfortunately, not anymore. Not with my back.
I don't know how he does it, but Stephen always manages to remain so calm. I think at the time, I was edging towards not paying. The call with the insurance company, it really shook me. I mean, thankfully, Noah and Stephen convinced me otherwise.
We agreed, in the end, that the only logical conclusion was to pay the damn ransom. End of story, right? Well, we wouldn't be making this film if it was now, would we?
Next morning, early, I want to say midnight, we received a message from the hackers, and there was a different tone to this one. And I noticed that they clearly weren't native English speakers. The plan was to reply in the morning, but I felt though as it was urgent for me to reply then and there, and so not as to aggravate them. There was a couple things to figure out. I mean, could they prove that they could send over working demos that would actually again work? How did we obtain and send Bitcoin? And I knew it wasn't simple because I had contacts before who did a bit of trading, and often it required approval times and special accounts, so there was loads to work out at the time. I drove to the office on the off chance that they might send over a demo code, made myself a cuppa, and kind of set up for a really long night. But about 40 minutes later, they sent over a message. And they had a transaction address and the demo code for George's computer. It then responded with a long list of instructions of how to obtain Bitcoin and how to send it over. And I actually vividly remember the friendly message of let us know if you need anything or have any questions or something to that effect. Almost like they were doing us a favour and that we should be thankful. So I gave the key a try on George's computer, and just like that, we were in. And then it hit me that these guys were serious. All of this was thought through, like clockwork. It felt like a business transaction rather than a ransom. Yes, I got talking to one of my contacts, and they were US based, so I knew they'd be awake. She was multi-skilled, well-versed in crypto and well-versed in decryption. But I thought to myself, if I could get someone to decrypt the machines from a remote location, then it was worth a shot. What it meant, though, is that we would need to stall the hackers without scaring them off or leaving us stranded.
That first day, I have never felt stress or anxiety like it. And to then have to put on a brave face, I couldn't have survived many more days in that situation.
Turned up to work the following day, good and early, to an empty office. It was clear that Noah had been working through the night, and he looked exhausted, although he would never admit it. We needed to stall the hackers as Noah had a contact that might be able to break the encryption. And there was another realization that we had. We only really needed one key to get 90% of the critical data back and our business up and running. So
I sent the hackers a message offering 1 Bitcoin for 1 code, claiming it was to prove to the IT director, who was unsure if the code would work on a virtual machine, which is how the servers are set up. But they didn't buy it. tell you, there was no regards at the end of that email. My US contact did offer to help facilitate payment in case we were struggling to set up the crypto. But decrypting it didn't look likely.
Honestly, those days, they were just a blur. We had the hope of Noah's contact, hopefully being able to get some of our data back, but I mean, that was a no-go. You just feel like these people have you pinned up against a brick wall. Sorry, not the most gentle way of putting it, but it's true. We were completely at the mercy of these faceless criminals. It was anger, helplessness, just frustration. I felt like a victim of a crime, which, well, we were. At least now we had something to focus on, because at this point our last and our only option was to pay.
But this was almost over, right? There must have been some sense of relief.
No, the opposite. You're forced to trust them. You're a horrible position to be in, because you're forced to trust the very people that have violated you, that have taken advantage of your business and have bent you to their will. So, no, not a sense of relief.
It started to feel like the end was near. I had the codes and I was trying them. Enter, boom, I'm in. Enter, boom, and the data's there and everything was working until I reached the main server. The only one that I really needed. I double checked, I triple checked, I quadruple checked. And then it dawned on me.
Apparently, when our IT company attempted the restore, they didn't check to see if the backup had also been encrypted, which meant the hacker's key didn't work. It just felt that everything we tried just compounded the problem.
I couldn't believe it when I got into the office the next day. And they told me, I think I'd mentally prepared to start picking up the pieces, you know? Start the insurance claim, an inquest into how this all began. And it was just still happening. I remember my head just pounding like the world's worst hangover and just would not end.
So the encryption that they had used encrypts what's known as a file allocation table. This is essentially just a map that tells the server where to find the correct bits of information, the correct data that essentially forms a file. When they restored this, they didn't restore the table, they restored the data, and that just doesn't work. With the algorithm, it looks at it and it's not what the table's looking for. The algorithm doesn't work and it just goes to pieces.
Right. So by doing the restore,
The IT company renders it useless. But that shouldn't have mattered because the hackers promised all the keys, which clearly we didn't have. So in essence, all I had to do was go back and ask them.
I remember thinking we had nothing. All we could do was wait. Once again, the business was in their hands.
This wasn't a teenager in their room or someone trying to make a quick buck. It was a business and we were their customers, and they had done their due diligence. And what's scarier? A lone criminal or hundreds of them? Organised and efficient, going after any business with even the smallest vulnerability. Anyway, we discussed what we should do, what our next step should be, because there was still the very chance that they could, keep asking for more money until the price had doubled, tripled. Who knows?
I was numb at this point. My headache had gotten worse and I just needed it to be over. I remember thinking, what if they close communications and move on to their next victim with our money already in the bag? I mean, what if the insurance company were right? We've lost our data, we're down 25K, and we've just drawn a massive target on our backs.
Let's face it, we didn't have a choice. It was one last try to get my business back up and running. It felt like one more bet, one more spin of the wheel.
It was the wrong code.
The wrong bloody code.
The code they sent was for an off-site backup server, so it was useless. They asked if we wanted it for free. Now, at the time, we didn't know if this was sincere or mocking or sarcasm or what. We just knew that this was our last chance.
The next thing I remember is coming round to my daughter on the phone to the ambulance. I remember thinking, it was fine. I just needed to sleep, Just get me to bed. Next thing I know, the ambulance is there. They've taken me off to hospital for observations. And, it turns out that had I fallen asleep, I might never have woken up.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Oh, it was all okay in the end. I think it was more to do with the stress and anxiety of the week. It was fine. But at least we had our data back.
It was awful what happened to Georgia. I wouldn't necessarily say it was unexpected. She was the one keeping the business going through all this. And we could see the toll it was having. And unfortunately, the ongoing consequences to the business lasted many, many months.
The business asked me to collate everything, document all the conversations, the server logs, all of it.
Did you ever find out how they got in the first place?
Yeah. It was a targeted phishing email that installed malware to the main server, which captured all the passwords going in and out. Once they had access to the main admin one, they had free reign to do whatever they pleased.
Seems so simple.
Exactly. They found an open port pointing directly at the server. All they needed was a password, which is what the email was for.
£250,000. That was the estimated cost the hack caused the business. $250,000. So that includes the ransom, the missed work, and the replacement hardware. Yeah, all of it.
That's a big number. Were you surprised?
Yeah, I think we were surprised because I don't think we were so focused on trying to fix the problem at the time that we forgot to think about all the other areas of the business that it was affecting. For example, we had an obligation to tell all our clients that our data had been breached. Although the data hadn't been stolen, it was a reputation thing,
I don't think we'll ever truly understand the total monetary cost of the attack. There are just so many things to consider. We just needed to dust ourselves off, make some changes, and get back to business. I think the biggest wind-up from this whole thing was that after everything had been paid, sorted, the bastards came back and offered for another donation, of course, to do a full security report. They were claiming that it would save us more than it would cost us. Unbelievable.
I think the issue was we didn't even fathom that this could happen to us. It didn't even occur to us that we could be a victim of this sort of hacking.
If you were to have one message for businesses like yours, what would it be?
Well, it's hard to have one message for all businesses because they're all so different. But my daughter actually, and hang on here, it is relevant. She has this fascination with butterflies. Now, butterflies are found on every continent and come in a vast amount of sizes. They are all beautiful and unique. But they're also so fragile, kind of like a business. The reality is, any business can be a target. Your freedom or your flight can be stopped by these groups at any minute. It's like being caught in a net and you're just trying to kind of make your way out, survive, just make it out alive. I mean, I know. It happened to us.